Hi folks, this is Rose from In Rose's Garden, and earlier we made this really pretty necklace using our Dusty Rose bargain bead box. Now it's a really pretty 2-strand necklace. I really like it, but I'm thinking we can make a bracelet to match. Now I'm not sure we're going to make it more than the 1 strand. I don't think we'll add the chain, but you never can tell. But I'm thinking we could make our pattern here as our focal, and then we'll just bead the pretty shell and black around the rest of the bracelet. And then if we decide after we get that done that it needs some chain, we can add some. But in the meantime, like I say, it's going to match this really pretty necklace that we made earlier, and I think it's going to look really good. So let's get our beads out and we can do that. So I've got my pink medium SoftFlex beading wire back out. I think this is this pink rhodochrosite? It might be. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But we're going to get a little strand of this coming. And we'll get a bead stopper on this one end so they won't come out. And I'm going to start by doing starting our shell pattern here. So we do 3 shells. Then one of the triangular beads, one of the black beads, one of the triangular beads, and 3 more shell. Again with our triangular bead, and then our black bead. Now I'm not sure how many of these rotations we're going to need to do the length we want. I'm going to do 3 to start with, and then we'll put on our middle piece here. And as we go on, as we get more done here, we'll see if we need to add a 4th row on the other side to get the length that we want. But there's our so far. And now we'll go to this piece. I think it's got one of those seed pods in it. It does, see? They use those to tumble the beads with, to especially after they coat them, then it helps get some of the coating off, so you get the pretty coloration that they have on them. So there's our bead, and then the other. Looks like that might have had a little something in it too. Now we'll just go on with our pattern with the black, and then the triangular, and then the 3 shell. Looks like I need to put some more shell out here. There, that's one. Now we have the 3 shell on either side and our, but as you can see, we do need some more. It's not quite enough. So I'm going to cut our cord here. I've got plenty of line over on this side, so I think we're fine to just cut it right where it's sitting here at the other edge of our wire here. And I'm going to do another set of 3 on either side. Well, come on. Where's the hole? There it is. Now I know from making the necklace that we cannot get 2 wires into our little black bead, the black, I think it's black tourmaline. So I will have to decide if it's long enough to go on to do right now, or if I'm going to want to add a little something to it. But we do need to put the set of 3 on this side, so think, oh, there's one, that'll work. Now, dependent on how I want to end it, we might be big enough, we might be too big. Let's see. Now, I think it's big enough. In fact, I think I'm going to take the 2 little black tourmalines off of the end so that we don't have to fight with them as we go on to the next step, which is going to be to decide how we're going to close this and if we're going to add a little chain to make it so it's more like, what did I just knock over? Not sure, but something, to make it more like our necklace. So we will bring some chain out, see what it looks like, just having a chain, 1 chain strand beside. And we can do that if we want, or we could do it on both sides. Or we could do none at all. But I'm thinking I might want to do that on both sides. I think it looks pretty good. Let's see if we take that off. Take it off entirely. I think we'll put it on both sides, but it's just going to be plain chain. I'm not going to add any embellishments. Now this one we did add this one little spacer bead, but we are not going to do that on this. So I need to decide how I'm going to end this and find some findings for it. So we'll take our chain and we are going to end it, but first what we want to do is we're going to make loops on both sides of our bracelet piece. I'm going to make loops because I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to use for the ending, and besides that, no matter what we're doing, we need a loop here at the end. We can jump ring it then, as well as the chain, jump ring them into whatever finding we use as an ending. So I do have this brass 2 ending, but we are going for 3 because we want those 3 we want those 3 lines, 2 lines of chain and 1 of beading. So we're going to get some of these out. Now I couldn't find I haven't been able to find my copper one, so I've just been using black ones since we do have a black bead in here. I actually probably do have some copper ones. I just have to, I know I have, actually maybe this is it right here. Come here, you. It is. Good. We'll use the copper. These are Beadalon. These ones are SoftFlex. These are Beadalon crimps. They're the 2 brands I use. I don't want any that are too cheap or thin-walled, so I use these 2 brands. So we're going to do a crimped loop on this one side here, and then turn around and do a crimped loop on the other side as well. Now, are you going to fall into that spacer? That is the question. I think it's just big enough to not fall in, so that's good. Come on, baby. So over you go. And I'm just going to take this side and I'm going to loop it. Now, because this is the first side, I don't have to worry about getting, making it sure that everything's in place and tight and everything. We just need to get it done. So we put the crimp tube in our magical crimpers, give it a slight squeeze, turn, squeeze, and continue to turn and squeeze. Now I'm going to do a crimp test by pulling on it here. It's doing pretty good. So now we'll slide the spacer up and see if it'll go into the shell, and it will, so that's good. So we're going to cut this off here at the base of the shell. Now if you don't get it real tight, that's fine because it'll go into the spacer. We already know that it'll go into that spacer, so that's fine. So we're going to slide this over here, and we'll do a loop on this side as well. So in goes our crimp bead, or tube I should say. It's not a bead. They're 2 different things, crimp tubes and crimp beads. So now we do want this to go through here. So we're going to pull her up, then bring her down, pull her up again, and we're going to continue to do that till we get down to meeting the other beads where we want it to tighten up at. Now this time I am going to turn it around and go through this spacer because the spacer is holding the beads up from going down tight. We want them down as tight as we can get them down there without, over tightening, but we still want them to be pretty tight, so we want to push that down. Now we're going to crimp this. Now I'm going to get my crimp tube so it's in my divot. Then I'm going to pull this down some and pull this up so that we have it tighter here. So now we'll crimp, turn, and crimp. And we just want to keep turning and crimping till we have it done. And she's almost there now. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to now take and cut this extra wire off right here. So there we go. There is the base of our bracelet. And it will be pretty close. So we don't want to make it too much bigger than what it is right now. So now we need to take our chain and we will run it beside our piece, holding it relatively tight up on this end, and then come down here. And we're going to want to cut it about right here. So we'll cut this one right here. And then we're going to take our awl here, and we're going to put that in there and go over here with this one, run it down. We're not going to have a lot of chain left after we finish this up, and that's fine, because there we go. Well, you know, we can use it for other things like earrings or something like that. So that's fine. Both of those are the same. So now what we have to do is find our decide what kind of closure we're going to use so we can hook this all together. So there's what our bracelet's going to look like. This is our little bit of chain that's left. Look, it's almost one more length. Actually, I think it might be. That's funny. But like I said, it will probably become earrings, this little piece of chain. So now we need to find whatever we're going to use as a closure. Because, well, we're obviously not going to use this guy because it's only 2 and we need 3. So we need to go find a finding that will work. Okay, I have looked and I cannot find one, even though I'm sure I have them. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one. So I'm going to get out some copper wire. And that just unspooled quite a bit, but that's all right. It's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to make a couple of 3-hole bars. So I'm just going to cut some wire off here. So what we're going to do to make this is we're going to make a simple loop on this side, like so. Then we're going to come down a little ways and we're going to make another loop. This one we're going to make bigger because we're going to be hooking from both sides onto it. So we're just going to wrap it around like so. Ta-da. Then we're going to go down a little further and we're going to make another simple loop. So now we have a bar. So I'm going to now cut this one off right here where this loop is. And because this is 20 gauge craft wire and it's going to get a little bit of use out of it, so you can see this one is further away than this one, so I'm going to cut this one a little bit. This one over here, I'm going to cut just a little bit through the loop here. And then we're going to take our our plier, and we're going to loop it again so that it comes in and meets again. And now, as you can see, we're a lot closer. So now we need to make a second one of these, pretty much this, just exactly the same, and then we're going to hammer them so that they're in good shape. Now, this one is bigger because it's going to have two jump rings going through it. The one that's going to hold the bracelet together on the other side you're finding, and then the pieces that are coming on this side. So I'm going to trim this edge off here. We're going to make our first little loop. Like so. Then we're going to come in about there. Yep, maybe a little further, but we'll find out here. So we're going to make this loop. See if it's close to this one. We want it relatively close if we can get it. It's a little bit off, but barely. And then we have to make this final one here. Now, let's see how we're doing here with these. Looks pretty good. So now we want to trim this wire off right here. And we have a little extra. Put it aside. Now we have Now I think that this one is a little bit more over to that side, so we're going to try and get it to stay this direction a bit more. There we go. And we'll see how we are as far as these are together. That's perfect. This one looks like it could go just a teeny bit smaller. So we're going to get in here and just cut just the barest minimum off of the bottom of our wire. And then up we go. So now actually we may even be a little smaller. And we are. Darn it. But since I don't want to keep playing with these forever though, we're going to slide all of our pieces up here to the top. We're going to get our steel block out. And we're going to get our nylon jaw hammer out. And then we're going to hammer these to give them some more strength. Because let's face it, they are made out of 20 gauge artistic wire, which is not the strongest wire in the world, and we want to work harden them. So now, as you can see, they bowed downwards a little bit, so we want to push that back up so that they're pretty well flat across the bottom. So there's those two. So we'll put those up there. Now we need to get our jump rings out. We're going to use our, let's see, where are you guys at? Copper. I don't think I have any Tinky Tots in copper. I do in bronze, see? the 4 millimeters, but I don't think I do in copper, or I might use them. We've got our copper out here, so we need to put these together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these guys and we're going to hook each of these pieces onto one of these guys. So this is our middle piece, of course, so onto the middle. And then we'll put a chain on either side. Now we'll go over to the other side and we will put them on the other toggle piece here that I made. And then when that's done, we will hook on to this bigger ring again and put the other hardware pieces that we need to close it up. Now I sort of suspect this, with this kind of closure here, it's going to actually be a little longer than I want it to be, but we'll see how long it ends up being. So now we'll have this piece and this piece, and they go like so. Look, you go over where you belong. There we go. And you come over where you belong. So it's like so. Now, when you put this on, it's going to go around, and you're going to come up here and over here. Oops, come back here, you. And it might not be too much longer than I like them to be, but it's going to be a little longer. So then we need a big jump ring for the holding our lobster claw. And we need our lobster claw. Now where'd I put the copper lobster claws? There they are. So now we'll take this big one and we'll just choose a side. Doesn't matter which side, just choose a side. And now where this bigger loop is, we're going to go through it and go upwards. Not that it will stay upwards, it's going to try and fall to the bottom, or it'll, they're not going to stay wherever you put them per se, because they like to wiggle around. And then we'll go to this side and we'll get one of these medium ones and open it up. Again, we're going to lift this up like so, put this through the bigger loop, and then put the lobster claw onto it and close it up. And there she is, all done. So as you can see, she's holding the lobster claws right here in this loop. So then it comes around and it goes and hooks in to this loop on the other side. Now the little pieces are trying to flop around. I don't like that, but let's see how long it ended up being. Now I will tell you the chains will try to look longer than the other. Oh boy, it's a lot longer than I thought. It's 7 3/4. But see, these little guys are going to try and wiggle some. And if I actually find one of these guys with the 3, I'm going to switch it over to that, so that will make it smaller, because we won't have the lobster claw in these pieces. But at the present moment, I couldn't find one, so, but if I do find one and I switch it over, what we'll just do is we'll just take these jump rings that are on these little tiny pieces here, and we'll switch them to these loops, so that that we don't have this length and this wiggling around on this. But that is something you can do if you don't have something and you need something. You can always put make these little loops like this. So now the chain looks a lot longer than the bead strand as it hangs down. And that's, well, one reason is because it's flopping sideways like this. But the other reason is because the chain doesn't have beads on it. So even though it's the same length as our beaded thing, it doesn't have the beads holding that diameter in the middle. So if you wanted to, you could even make the chains a little shorter so they wouldn't drop down like that. But until I find a different closure, it's just gonna stay that way. I'm not gonna worry about it. So that's what she looks like. Though I'm really not happy with my hooks, though, because you'd think they'd stay fine. They're right where they should be, but one wants to lean one way and the other wants to lean the other way, and so it's becoming a bit of a pain in the rear. But as you can see, the chains are actually the same length as the bead strand. It's just that the bead strand is got that middle diameter. So if it bothers you having the chains longer, you can always shorten them up a little bit. So there's our bracelet. Like I say, I probably am going to change the clasp if I can find one of my clasps like this with 3 holes, but I can't find one right at the present moment, so I'm not going to worry about it yet. There's our bracelet, and here's our necklace. Yeah, so you can see how they work together there. So I think they're both very pretty. I hope you enjoyed making this bracelet with me. If you wanted to see me make the necklace, it was on my live on Valentine's Day that we made that one. And there we go. Like I say, I am going to switch this out as soon as I find a 3-hole slider bead. Slider clasp. I may need to buy one because I may not have one, but I think it would look better with that because it won't do this little movement that it keeps making with my homemade one here. But it is a pretty bracelet. Like I say, it goes around like this, and it will hook in the back here. So it will be very, very, it looks pretty nice right now, and it would look nicer if I had a better clasp on the back. But, because see it, when I bring it around, well, let me see if I can bring it to the top. It might be easier that way. See, it is bigger than I want it to be. I only have a 7 1/4 inch wrist. Of course, there are people with bigger wrists, so I could leave it this length. Oh, you come here. So that, and bring you up here. And so it is just about the length of the lobster claw, too big for me. For another person, it would probably be about, it might be just right. But, and there's the other side, of course. So, there we go. But that's called improvising a little bar if you don't have one, a 3-hole bar, and that's how you do that too. So I hope you enjoyed making this with me. So there we go. There's our little bracelet to match our necklace. As you can see, if I'm holding it like this, it stays pretty well like it should. Actually the beaded one is a little bit longer than the other two, and that's fine because it actually needs to be. So there is a bracelet. Here is the necklace that we made before, so that they match up there. Got to get hold of that right. There we go. So there's our necklace and our bracelet to match. This has been Rose from In Rose's Garden. These beads are from the Bargain Bead Box Dusty Rose, and I hope you enjoyed making these with me. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. I found some of the type of clasp I want, but these are unfortunately silver, so if they were bronze, I might use them, but I won't silver because that's too much of a difference. But this is what I'm looking for. See, these are a slider one, and because they are a slider and they will take up a little bit less space than the lobster claw was. So if I do find one of these in copper, I will switch this bracelet out to copper. So they just slide back and forth in like this. And as you can see, it has 3 connectors on each side, so that is why I was looking for this particular type of connector. I'm hoping that I will be able to find a copper one. And if I can, then of course we'll switch it out. But if we can't, well, it's gonna keep it. I guess it'll keep the one I made. So there you go. Again, this has been Rose from In Rose's Garden.